You know the feeling, right? If you're a school leader, you've definitely been there. You pour everything into a new initiative. There are high hopes, a beautiful plan, and then, somewhere along the way, it just fizzles out. It's a really frustrating cycle. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into why that happens so often, and we're going to uncover what the research says is the single most powerful way to create real, lasting improvement in a school.
Seriously, this feeling is so common. It's like you're running on a hamster wheel. You're putting in all this effort, but you just end up right back where you started. So, why do our best laid plans seem to fall apart? It turns out the answer lies in a fundamental misunderstanding of how change actually happens.
You see, we've all been taught to think about change as this neat, predictable, step-by-step process. But in the real, messy, complex world of a school, that whole model is basically a myth. And it's the number one reason so many of our great plans fail.
Yeah, the classic wisdom says if you just have a good enough plan, change will happen. But the data tells a completely different story. Change management expert Seiss Homan points out this massive failure rate. We're talking 70 to 80%. That's a huge red flag that the way we're thinking about this is just wrong.
Homan actually has a name for this traditional model. He calls it monocentric change. Mono meaning one. It's this idea that change starts from one central place, the leadership team, and then it just radiates out in a controlled, predictable way. It assumes the school is just sitting there, waiting for the leader to push a button, and that's the whole plan and implement idea that fails us over and over again. And here is one of the biggest reasons that top-down model is doomed. Howman introduces this brilliant idea of onstage versus offstage behavior. So onstage is what you, the leader, see. It's the nods in the staff meeting, the yes, we're on board. But the real action, that happens offstage. It's in the hallways, the break room, the parking lot. That's where people have the real conversations to figure out what a new plan actually means. And it's in those offstage moments where your plan either takes flight or dies a quiet death. Okay, so if the top-down plans are destined to fail, what's the alternative? Well, to find the answer, we have to stop looking at the onstage performance and start paying attention to the unseen forces that are really shaping your school. And this brings us to a totally different way of seeing things. Polycentric change. Poly, of course, meaning many. This view gets that a school isn't some static machine. It's a living, breathing, dynamic system that's constantly changing. Change isn't kicked off by one leader. It's bubbling up all the time from thousands of little interactions between everyone. It's not a straight line. It's more like a chaotic, beautiful network.
This quote from Seiss Homan just nails it. The order which emerges is influenced by everyone, yet controlled by no one. The true culture, the real direction of your school, it's not the result of some master plan. It emerges from all those conversations and beliefs happening at once. As a leader, you can influence it, sure, but control it? No way.
So what this really means is that a leader's job isn't to be the grand architect of change. It's to be a kind of gardener, influencing these informal clouds of meaning. The real work is in shaping those offstage conversations. So the million-dollar question becomes, what's the most powerful way to influence what your staff talks about? And even more important, what they truly believe. All right, now we're going to pivot. We've talked about the problem, now let's get to the solution. If real change happens in the hearts and minds of the staff, then we have to focus on building the single most important belief they can possibly have about their work. And that powerful belief is called collective teacher efficacy. This idea comes from the amazing work of psychologist Albert Bandura and has been championed by researchers like Jenny Donahoe and the famous John Hattie. Now, this isn't about one teacher's confidence. It's the shared, rock-solid conviction of the entire team that together they can move mountains for their students, no matter what challenges get thrown their way. And this is where the data gets absolutely mind-blowing. John Hattie's research looks at thousands of studies to figure out what actually works in schools. Now, an effect size of 0.40 is considered a full year of growth. Collective teacher efficacy, it clocks in at a whopping 1.57. Look at that. Its impact is just enormous. It dwarfs so many of the other big factors we usually focus on. Let that sink in for a second. The shared belief of your teaching staff is 3 times more powerful at predicting how well students will do than their family's income or background. This isn't just another factor on a long list. This is the game changer. It is the single most powerful lever you can pull to improve your school. So, knowing this is the key, how in the world do you build it? This isn't about just giving pep talks or hanging up motivational posters. It's about deliberately creating a self-reinforcing engine of success. Bandura called this reciprocal causality, which is basically a fancy term for an amazing feedback loop. Here's how it works. It starts when teachers work together on a real problem. Then, and this is the critical part, they see hard evidence that what they're doing is actually working. They see their students making progress. That success, that's the rocket fuel. It builds their shared belief, which then gives them the confidence to tackle even bigger challenges. It's a cycle. Success breeds belief, and that belief leads to even more success. Now, this whole engine runs on a very specific kind of cultural fuel. Education expert Michael Fullan calls it internal accountability. And look, this is the complete opposite of that top-down, compliance-based accountability that we all dread. This is a culture where the team holds itself responsible for results because they feel a deep professional commitment to their kids, not because they're afraid of a bad evaluation. To make this super practical, Michael Fullan gives us this amazing framework of right drivers versus wrong drivers. And you can see the pattern here, right? The wrong drivers are often about top-down control, focusing on individuals or chasing the next shiny piece of technology. But the right drivers, they're all about investing in the team, building their skills, getting them to work together, focusing on great teaching. This is how you build that internal accountability and get that efficacy engine humming. So let's bring this all together. What does this mean for you as a school leader? If change is happening everywhere at once, and the key is building this collective belief, then your most important job isn't managing a project. It's something much, much more powerful. This quote says it all. The leader's true power is shaping the story the school tells about itself. Think about it. Is the story in your school about compliance, test scores, and mandates, or is it a story about how we, together, are making a profound difference in the lives of our students? You don't manage change. You curate the conversations where a more powerful story can be born.
And that leaves us with one last question to think about. For just a moment, forget about the strategic plans sitting on a shelf. Instead, listen. Listen to those off-stage conversations. What is the story your staff is telling each other about their work, about their students, and about their own collective power? Because that story, the one being written every single day in those clouds of meaning, that's the real engine of your school success.